Hello, everyone. Welcome to Four Checks Cast. We are your Four Checks, here to give you everything going on in the world of universes. And we had a lot last week. Last weekend was the Las Vegas Regional, and we had one of our members go attend it, Will, who will talk a little bit about his experiences. And we also had another one judge it. So now we have honorary judge or real judge Broberg.
The honor. You just mean the honorable Broberg now? Okay.
Honorable was what the word I was looking for. Yeah, honorable judge.
This is going to come up the next time you're having heated argument. That's your honor to you.
Oh man!
Hey, now the foot up on the chair feels like it's now a power move. Let's go.
So I'm going to go ahead and start with your guys' personal experience before we talk about overall how it went. We'll start with Will on the player side. Will, what were you kind of feeling going into the tournament? When did you have decided the deck you were going to take? Please tell me it was more than 12 hours this time.
I mean, I certainly packed two. I certainly went down to 2 decks when I packed my bags.
Yeah, but I mean, with teams events on Friday now, this is now a thing, right? Like,
yeah,
you bring 2 decks,
true.
you play one of them in teams on Friday, and
if you
get the vibe, and if you're not feeling it, you swap.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I did.
Yeah,
and both my decks decided to betray me, and it's okay. This is the game we play. No. Seriously, I brought Pony and Reiner. I played Pony in teams. She checked way too many 3s because I'd suck at shuffling or something. I don't know. And then I swapped to Reiner for day 1 of the main event, and that deck screwed me at 2 crucial opening hands in 2 out of 3 of my losses. It's whatever.
So, what were your losses to?
So I don't remember crap about teams. Like that was a blur. The only thing I remember about teams was a really funny mirror match that Marvin and I had, where we mirrored each other's turn 2 kills card for card, and finished 2 games. We finished 2 games in 10 minutes. It was fantastic. It was really funny. But anyway, my losses in the main event were 1 to an aggressive Biolante list, which caught me off guard because I just wasn't expecting it to be as aggressive, probably because I listened to Justin too much. My next loss was to Nick, my teammate Nick Reagan, on Mitchell Cimino. It was a nice back and forth game, and I had one really bad opening build, and that put me really behind in the match, and he took control of it. And then the third loss was to a Pony, who basically the exact same situation. Like, it was a good back and forth for the first 2 games. Game 3, I mulliganed into a 1 foundation, 1 asset hand, and because she's Pony, took advantage of the situation. I just died. So
makes sense. Makes absolute sense to me. So do you feel like, what kind of coming off this, do you feel like you made the right decisions for the decks to bring? Do you think there was a deck you should have brought instead? Do you think it was just luck of the draw? How would you feel if you were to like redo this regional?
I mean, I might swap the 2 decks and where I played them. Maybe like I might start teams with Reiner and then end with Pony, depending on how that went. But I think the decks I brought were solid. Like, they felt really good when they worked. And that, like I said, we play a card game. RNG is part of the card game. You can't get super mad about bad RNG. It happens. And if I had better RNG, maybe I would have done better. Who knows? But it's whatever.
You think you chose? I feel like Pony and Reiner were kind of 2 of the, I don't want to say stock decks, right? Because it's never quite that. But like among the decks that were out there, they were 2 of the decks that kind of, I feel like, had a build sort of that was a little more settled and a little bit I mean, there were 2 among 2 of the stock decks. You feel like you basically played stock lists and then didn't feel that you necessarily got to like completely own them, and then they betrayed you, or you think it was just the bad luck of the draw and the losses?
I think it was just bad luck of the draw. Like a lot of my games felt really good. They felt, and I don't think any of them felt really broken. Like, I didn't ever have a moment where I felt like, oh well, this sucks. I'm getting handed to me. These are non-games, and I at least I don't think any of the matches I I had felt like that to my opponent. Maybe in teams the pony games might have, because people don't like aggro sometimes, and that's fine. But
I know a thought I've had a few times is I'll play like Zeke or Peak or whatever, and it'll feel like I win about 1/3 of my games, and my opponent or my deck, like either my opponent loses, like they throw it away, or my deck kind of just hands it to me 1/3 of the games, and I lose 1/3 of my games.
right.
And it's like, it's a pretty good record all in all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, like, I don't even know if me losing that momentum early against Nick would have mattered, because his deck was geared to face Reiner. Like, he's playing 4x of the one diff that eats a power token. He's playing he's like mainboarding ways to eat momentum, et cetera, et cetera. So like keeping me off the transform is a good way to, at least for Mitch, to build up a board state that he needs to take out someone else.
Yeah, it's hard to be the deck in the crosshairs. Yeah, I say
Right.
this a lot.
Absolutely.
And George Zhang played a fairly significantly different from the stock list Reiner.
Yes.
And of all the other Reiners, you were the highest finishing Reiner that was running like sort of a stock list. And you were like, what, 4-3 was it?
Yeah, 4-3.
Yeah, and there was like a 3-1-3 or something somewhere in there, and all the rest of them had losing records.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was kind of the thing that we were talking a little bit about beforehand when it came to Reiner, and when everyone was freaking out that he wasn't touched. It was a situation where it's like, this is the deck that's going to be the most in the crosshairs. Not that people weren't concerned about Pony or were playing for Pony, but this was a deck that everyone knew was a threat, and it certainly seemed like there were things you could do to mess with Reiner's gameplay, either slow him down a couple of turns, or what we ended up seeing from some people was like just playing a deck that could play through the post-flip Reiner, or just tried to kill him faster. So with all those kind of ideas in mind, I'm not necessarily surprised to see the Reiners that weren't playing, or that were playing the stock list, winding up how they were. Because if you are the biggest deck, you have to be bannably good to often persist in spite of that.
Sure.
Yeah, I think when the metagame is healthy, right? We see a rotation. We see like this week it's paper, the next week it's rock, right? Or next week it's scissors, I guess, cutting the paper, and then even like the top of the metagame can occasionally you'll see rock then that loses the best deck, but then is taking out the people who are playing on the best deck, and is speaking like that. And obviously, it's not as simple as just a one-dimensional cycle of 3 decks, but there's a lot of angles, there's a lot of strengths and weaknesses in different decks and ways that individual decks can tune themselves. That's like the definition of a healthy metagame, right? It's not going to be the same week to week, even if the people are showing up to LCs, and even if there's popular trends, but that there are still also tools within the metagame to address those trends. And I think that George's deck is a really interesting microcosm, kind of with our narrative, right? Is that, Reiner you can't fight Reiner over the flip that effectively, right? If he wants to flip, he's going to be able to potentially Slayer 1. And he would do that in turn 2. But that even if he does that, now he's still playing attacks and he's still got to pass control checks. And that kind of, it feels like people were able to either, like, you can hang with post-flip Reiner and defend him for a little while, with Breaker, with D-build and stuff. And also, I guess I was kind of going to say 2 thoughts. One of them was that he can either fail his checks, you can try to help him fail his checks, or you can just have really great defense, which I feel like it's kind of the shape of Broadly Rodan, is that, and actually in particular, King Ghidorah Unleashed had a great weekend in these Void Rodan decks. If he's just playing Thundersphere Barrages and you have -3 speed on your face that can summon a +1 high block, that defends the Thundersphere Barrage just fine.
Yeah,
I just even if incubating's gonna be a fight over.
I just pulled up the deck so stream could take a look at it. First of all, I do want to just say one thing. Him running back the 1 of Ore Strike, which, if I remember correctly, he did the same thing with younger Toguro back a long while ago. Really funny. I have no idea if he, I want to know how much he thought that was the optimal decision and how much he thought it'd be fun to bring it back, because that was one of the things that made his younger Toguro stand out from everyone else's. Obviously, for those of you who haven't read Ore Strike, the deadlock on this card, which is the reason why he's running it, is just an insane behemoth that pretty much just says you win the game on the spot if you go into deadlock.
It's closed deck list now, right? For top cuts.
Yeah.
So like, if you check it, they have to respect the possibility that you have more than one of these, and you're just not allowed to go to deadlock.
And also,
and if you don't check it and they do go to deadlock, you win the game. You draw it.
Yeah,
that's a really good way to frame it.
To me, yeah, the defining factors of this deck are, number one, it has about 40 foundations. It's a normal foundation count deck, completely normal foundation count deck. You know, this is the standard proportion these days. So like a little bit less than 2/3, because it's a 74 card deck.
Yeah, it's still about 1/3 attacks too, right? It's like 23 out of 68, I think.
Yeah,
if I'm doing my math right.
Or it's 74 cards.
Oh, really?
I just know that that's a cash number. But it's got 4 bug bite, if I didn't say that. So it's got more copies of the Aura Strike once you see the first one. It's kind of built around Aura Strike, and it's built around bug bite to my eyes to a real extent. It's got all these flip draws that you often might not play. That are growing unease is not a staple card by any means. But Reiner says, hey, I can play the pile of these 2 diffs on turn 1. And then this is just Reiner that blocks. This is just Reiner that plays very basic fundamentals and gets a big stage and runs himself into deadlock and says, I'll flip sooner or later. I'll find a power token. I'm not going to bother with backups because I can't defend backups. So we're just going to get assets in play. We're going to get a power token in play. That's when we'll flip, and then we'll grind you out from there. But first and foremost, we're just going to get card advantage.
Absolutely. And first of all, thank you so much, Paul, for the sub. Also, talking on that, I think the most interesting choice here was the complete removal of backups. Like, not only is he running a normal foundation count, but he's just said, look, backups are too vulnerable. Our front side is good enough. As Ross said, you get to be City Rampage for foundations, and you do get to do a little bit of stage terror to your opponent still. So he said our front side is going to be good enough. If we draw Crystal Formation, or they let the Monster versus Yushin hit them.
You also have Silk Rain, I think. I think that makes a power token.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
so
doesn't this one on
either it's unblockable if you want to respect the power token.
Yeah. So we've got 10 ways to generate a token. Now 6 are given control to your opponent, but the action is fully in your control. He's saying, hey, if we get that, we get to turn into the crazy character. But we're good enough without that. We don't need this additional vulnerability. We can be a solid, I would say maybe B+ tier character that becomes an S tier when we draw the right card. But we don't need to insist that we have to always be the S tier character as early as humanly possible.
Right.
Yeah, I really loved the match that George put on in teams against Drew. And I guess I almost want to frame it as like Drew put on an excellent match fighting back against his Reiner deck. Effectively had to turn his Void Control Rodan deck into the aggro deck in the matchup because all of the inevitability, all of the the card economy and the economy game really, right? Having more cards, having more resources than the opponent, and having inevitability in the matchup was all on Reiner's side. And so he was playing like Megalomania aggro in the clunkiest clunkiest way, I guess. But
I almost wish Silk Rain wasn't in this list because then you'd have no 4-diff attacks. It would just be 3s and 5s, and that'd be fine. there's 12 3-diffs. I mean, the economy, the check passing economy between on your front side the Reiner form to make your builds easier, and then when you're going to kill, there's real benefit to having a bunch of 3 difficulty attacks.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's why Nago gets second at Worlds, right? Nago was running a ridiculous amount of 3 diffs and 4 diffs. I think only running the 1 5 diff, which was Bloodsucking.
Obviously.
Yeah. So I totally think this list is sick. I want to give credit to the player. Unfortunately, I don't know the name of every player in Top Cut, but I do know George Zhang's name really well, and we've seen him show up a few times. I think I'm so glad to see him playing more in the game again, because he is one of the most interesting deck builders in our game right now. His younger Toguro list was very different than what a lot of the others were doing at the time. Again, with that sort of discard, the Aura Strike, all that jazz. This list is a very different Reiner. And I remember back in, was it Atlanta, where he brought Mothra 1 and Top Cut with Mothra 1 that was like a 4-check Mothra 1 deck. anytime he shows up with a deck, it may be a meta character, but almost always it is a list that you would not expect from them. I think the only time I like expected most of the cards was when he was playing Rodon at Worlds, which was still a really, really strong and had its own little set of uniqueness. So seeing him show up and really say we can play Reiner completely differently just goes to show how good of a deck builder he is.
Yeah, this is a national champion, and it's not it's not a fluke, right?
It also tells you a lot because he is actually a game designer. I don't know if he still is. At least for a while, he was working as a game designer for a card game. I think it was Star Wars that he was doing work with. And you can see that designer mindset with the way that he clearly examines and evaluates cards. I think it's just super cool. Before we go on to talking about kind of Top Cut as a whole, I want to give a little bit of time to talk about both the Sunday events and Broberg's time judging. Let's start with Broberg. Why did you decide to judge? Is this the first time you've judged since the start of MHA? Like at a major?
I've judged like a provisional, I think. This is my first time being like a floor judge in the new regional system. And yeah, I mean, I think I kind of went in with a correct perception of what it was going to be, which is that it's going to be broadly a customer service role where I would be occasionally like stream judging was definitely like I'm participating in the game in a real sense and like making sure that everything's being produced for the stream and like the game, like I have to maintain the game state in my own head to help make sure that the game state is being portrayed to the user, portrayed to the viewers, and I guess maintained between the players as well. But by and large, you know, it's kind of like walking around the room, being seen, and knowing, and people knowing that hey, they can call a judge, and then going over and helping, you know, diffuse, offer basic information like how interactions work, and then diffuse. I love our community. I've heard from other people saying I couldn't imagine judging after they judged Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever, that they have to deal with all these man children or whatever, and these she said arguments had nothing resembling that, even the slightest bit. But yeah, broadly, I chose to judge because I realized that it is stressful to prepare decks, and it is stressful to then go and compete with the decks, and that I could instead not have to deal with a lot of stress and still go and hang out with the UVS community and still go experience peak universes. Just as a spectator, effectively, and that sure paid out. So, or that sure happened, right? And I got a whole bunch of great, you know, exposure to the decks. You know, I got to have a front row seat to some of these great matches, and came up with a ton of ideas for both more projects to work on and like improvements to the Build UVS tracker and stuff like that. So it was very fruitful all in all, and I'd happily do it again sometime, although not for Dallas because I already missed the submission deadline for that one.
No, I think it's really cool to kind of see you go and judge. You know, it's always nice to see players as a whole finding a way to give to the community. You know, I'm saying that as someone who only shows up to play ever, so this is not me trying to glaze myself in any way.
Well, and in a sense, the podcast is, right? Yeah.
I mean, that is my thing, is I give the Wednesdays to this. But other than that, like, not only is it cool to see, you know, people give to the community by judging, I do encourage anybody who is like looking for a way to get involved in the community, find opportunities to judge, to help out, other things going on. Learn the rules enough to judge first. Please don't be a bad judge. But it is very great ways. And I'm sure, Broberg, for you, like, you know, a lot of people are really excited about these regionals because the champion gets a backup card. And I'm sure you would like a backup card. It's not like you haven't been on quite a bit of cardboard at this point.
Yeah, I said a random offhand comment to someone. They really liked the phrasing. I think it was I used the phrase escalating cycles of virality, and they popped off like, we need to make that a card or something, or like that would be an incredible team's asset, yada yada yada. And like, what would the art be? What would you put in the art? And that kind of got me. I want to put some of those art ideas into a card, so I got to win it back up, or another championship card. But
if Levi is listening, because I know Levi likes to check some of these stuff, Worlds, if not this year, the next year, bring back team asset 3v3. I'm
sure that they know that that's something that people want.
I know, and I'm going to say
the problem is that most people don't have as good taste as I do, so they'll try to say something cringe or do some bad stupid art things.
Yes, and I want to
Be
be cringe on a
irritating.
card. Is that so much, Broberg? And I
Yes,
want to be
that is a
carried by someone
problem.
else.
Win worlds then.
Yeah, but then
Don't get carried through teams.
I say it's a lot easier to get carried than to do it yourself.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah, so my one hook is that I'm supposed to at some point like try to sneak. Obviously, you can't like literally directly do this for copyright reasons, but I should try to sneak some kind of Final Fantasy 14 Bard reference into a card at some point. So like, I would like one more. It doesn't. I'm not like super turned up about it, right? Like it would be a cool thing to do though. Right? So it's like, I'll still show up to events and play for cards and stuff. I'm probably not gonna go to the point of like playing a deck that I really hate or something like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's why I don't care when an aggro deck's a top deck in the format. No matter how much I want to be on cardboard, and I very much do, I refuse to take like an aggro TOT pony style deck. One, I don't think I would do very well with it. I don't think that's how I play. I am too conservative of a player. Please don't take that out of context. But secondly, Secondly, it is just a playstyle that not only am I bad at, I cannot stand, because when I do mess up because I check too bad or things like that, it just feels like the worst to me, and my mind space just goes terrible. Taking picture.jpg. Jesus Christ, Jose. All right, so
I would recommend anyone who's remotely interested in judging. I think we need more judges, and I think everyone can benefit from the experience of judging. I think there's I'm trailing off because I wish the rules were better, and I guess having more people in there and more passionate people in that program might help that discover the bad corners of the rules that can be iterated upon and can be improved.
Right. And to kind of like play off of what Justin said, like about not being a bad judge, as long as you are willing to accept that your rulings might be wrong, and learn from them, I don't mind too much. Like obviously it matters in like finals or something like that, but like get out there and learn to judge if you want to judge. Like start small, learn your stuff. If you get bad judge calls, sometimes it happens. Like just learn.
Yeah, like you do not have to be a master of the rule book in order to judge. That is why we have other judges, and that is why we have a system around you to help find the right answers. And that's why the players are allowed to appeal. If you ever get anything wrong, the players appeal, and it's no problem. Right? I've had plenty of potato rulings go the wrong way from the floor judge, and that card's complicated and weird and sideways. So I don't blame them at all for not having mastered all of that. You don't need that. You just need the humility to go up and serve the players and talk to the players, help the players, and then engage the system to find the correct resolutions and to keep working together with everyone. So I encourage anyone to give it a shot. I mean, I think even if I think if you like the community and think you're too bad at the game to play, judging's a great answer too. Those who can do and those who can't teach, like you can also judge.
Yeah, there's a saying in Magic at least that judges are terrible at the game. So like there's a perfect thing right there.
I'm gonna ignore the comment that those who can't do something teach it instead. We're just gonna
judges in Magic are like merely 99th percentile players, and you have to be like 99.999 to be on the Pro Tour.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no. Games like Magic, I'm always like, I cannot imagine trying to get into Magic today because I know how many hours the top players put in. Like trying to be the best in Magic would be agonizing. But speaking of having a judge call situation, because I know it's going to come a little bit in your story. Will, how Sunday you decided to get involved in one of the 1Ks, correct?
Yeah, I played retro because I will always take an opportunity to play win. That deck is so fun.
You were trying to figure out which one had more players, right? And didn't they wind up with like a 1-player difference between Retro and Hero 2, or like a 2 or 3 player difference?
So I did bring All Might for Hero 2, and then I got a little dissuaded by the rumor going around that there were like 7+ players on the dumb Infinite Combo Night Eye deck that's not interactive or fun. to play against. At least it's probably fun for the person playing it. So I was a little like dissuaded from playing that format, but I was just going to play whichever one I had less until I realized that they were doing the same style of deck list collection that they were doing for Retro, which was fill out a Google form and submit your UVS Ultra page, because All Might was updated on UGN because those cards are on there and I was able to do that. It was not updated on Ultra, and I did not feel like doing the playing around with the Ultra mobile website at like 10 o'clock the night before, so I just said, screw it, I'm going to play Retro.
That makes sense. I think Hero 2 wound up, because I think that's the 23.
Yes.
I was kind of shocked that Hero 2 wound up with more players. Like, I get it as the more accessible format, and it's probably the one if you just want to take your standard deck to one of these Sundays. I know a couple people did that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You feel better doing that in Hero 2, but I know how many people are dedicated to Retro. I was shocked that Retro did not have more players by the end.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. Like when you split up the events at the exact same time and there's money involved, people are going to play whichever one they think is going to be more fun. And we have a lot of people who would prefer to try out Hero 2 because it's new. Like people haven't really done a whole lot of it.
They think they have a better shot in. Right?
Exactly, right? Like it happens. Although ignore the fact that Sam basically won Retro with mostly a Hero 2 deck with a handful of Retro cards in it. The main draw of it,
Hero 2 with a standard deck.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I think for both of those, I think that is almost a good selling point for why you should consider getting involved in Retro in Hero 2. Is speaking as someone who has personally treated Retro like the plague, because I hate the idea of Bang and Revoke. You often assume that legacy formats are going to be so much higher power level and have so many cards you cannot remotely understand that it's not worth getting involved with. And like Hero 2, I think people haven't felt that, or a lot of people don't necessarily assume that Hero 2 because we've talked about the AOT power creep and things like that. But like when I hear Retro, I've heard people talk about the Libra cash grab, how much Mortal Kombat ramped up power, like all of these sets that did a lot to boost power, that I always just assumed that there was stupid, dumb BS in Retro and that it's a horribly broken.
There is, it's banned.
Yeah. Also here's the thing. Like, a ton of Libra cards are crazy good, but it's also a format with what, like 3,000, like a couple thousand cards in it. Like, the amount of cards that people are going to play from every let's see, it's 6,518 results is what comes up on Ultra right now for Retro. There's a lot of cards. Like even the sets that got power creeped out or whatever still have some really strong things that you can just play, right? Like there's still Street Fighter. Street Fighter is like notoriously one of the weaker Jasco era sets, and there are a ton of really cool cards that see play out of those.
Sure. My point is almost the reverse, though. Yes, you can play the old stuff, but you don't need a deep knowledge of the entire Retro pool. Like Sam has that, and that probably helps him when he plays for sure. Right. But in terms of building a deck, you can go to a friend who knows Retro and go, hey, here's a deck I really like in Standard, or I liked that rotated in Hero 2. Like that's what I've been kind of doing with Hanji 1 lately. Tell me what are like the 2 or 3 cards that I need to add in for this symbol that like are staples and must play. And I was told like, oh yeah, it's like one of the best actions ever printed. You probably should be playing Revoke. It can also turn into a foundation. It's like, cool. I use that. And the fact that a deck like that not only can be built, because obviously you can, but can do very well in the case of Benimaru, I think says a lot about the approachability of the format.
I think Benimaru is mostly not Hero 2 legal because half of his deck is banned in Hero 2.
Oh, right. Because
it's like stuff that's like banned in Hero 2, but
you're right. Because VME is also banned in Hero 2.
It was like 4x VME, 4x sweeping daggers. Yeah.
Sure, they are. They are.
A Retro is broken problem. That is, or Retro has too many powerful cards problem. That is a man. We printed some cards in Standard we probably shouldn't have printed.
Right, sure. Yeah, you could not change out the Retro cards and play in Hero 2, but it is like if you have played Standard in the last few years, you could probably build most of this deck.
Yeah, and I think that maybe maybe a frame of reference on all this is that in Hero 2 and in Retro, you're still playing universes.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes, in a lot of cases, you're playing universes with a very distinct, like your opponent's characters, their spin on it. Right. You're playing against the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles bad checks. You're playing against, I guess, Goro's band, but like you're playing against Akuma, and like Akuma has certain rules for playing the game, which are not the same rules as in standard, and sometimes Akuma will just kill you.
Yeah, you're more likely to face someone doing something that's like bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like abnormal, but
like then you play standard and Pony just kills you, and it's really
Right.
the same thing.
Yeah,
It just looks different.
yeah, like right from my perspective, if I was ever to like actually put something together for a retro event, I probably wouldn't put that much effort in, and like it would probably just end up being Kodokan, right? And so like you'd sit down against for your retro match. You know what I'd be playing against? A Snap Momentum Thunderspear Barrage deck that pumps damage. Like, we've never seen this before.
They're 1 high 10s? Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, right, because you make everything a throw in that deck. Ew, that's funny. I like that.
He makes one thing a throw.
Yeah, he makes
but
one
gives
thing.
his-
He makes
Sure.
one thing into Ochako Zero Gravity Lift.
Right.
And then everything else gets +4 damage if it started at 3 or less.
That's pretty cool.
The deck that I'm currently working on is literally almost just my Hanji 1 list, except for I have Revoke and Dragon's Tongue now, which means I get to do even more debuild the entire stage. Because that is one of the characters that gets to keep her backups when we do that, and gets to actually do something with her backups when we blow up the entire stage. So in other words, I'm making sure people have the least amount of fun possible.
Justin,
Kodokan
if
doesn't
you-
need foundations. It's fine.
if you want to level up your experience, you can play any death symbol character and play this card Hizoku Prince, which cannot be destroyed.
Wait,
the
hold
deck
on.
that maybe that nearly the deck that has pushed me closer to rage quitting a game of Tournament of Universes than any other in history was a Shigaraki 1 Dragon Song Spirit Shotgun deck that did nothing except for attempt to cheese me with +5 with burn for 5.
Oh, I think I remember. I think I played something like that at the Sunset Standard Tournament.
There's a
that was very
foundation
silly
you
deck.
said. What's the foundation that can't be destroyed?
Hizoku Prince. Yeah.
It's a
Prince?
0/6.
Prince,
Yes.
as in like royalty.
It's from Ruler of Time.
Yeah.
Hizoku.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, this card cannot
Annie-
leave your stage due to effects.
Annie 2 has death and can commit her backups to past checks and could play Hizoku Prince. And
Yeah,
the
boy.
other 0/5 that when blown up turns into a face down.
Mhm.
The
The
one
Andy
that's
one.
Andy.
Oh, Cowboy. Yeah.
Yeah. That card. I guess that card. Yeah, that card
Oh,
didn't get. Andy got slapped. That card didn't get slapped. I remember at the time people were
Hold on.
talking about hitting that instead of Andy.
This is a terrible idea. Okay.
Welcome to
Anyways,
Retro,
we need to get
baby.
back on topic.
Retro's all about trying your terrible ideas.
Absolutely.
All right. So yeah, Retro was a lot of fun. How much money did you end up winning for second place?
I got 200 for coming in second. I got a cool
200?
novel. I got a cool little novelty check that I forgot to bring upstairs to show off on stream.
And
then
I
I got
heard
paid
you did
today.
not gamble at all on black like you said you were going to for Cactus Candy.
Yeah, I did not have time.
I dragged him into Malwolf instead.
Yeah, I got dragged to Omega Mart, and it was Sunday night, and we had to be up to catch our flight at like 4:00 in the morning.
That's fine.
So-
Now I don't have to figure out how to order Cactus Candy from Arizona. So you know what? I'll take it.
Yeah, it's not hard. It's called
Uh,
Amazon.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, man.
Anyways, so last thing we want to talk about, we got about 25 minutes of the pod still. We want to talk a little bit about how Top Cut played out. Let's go ahead and talk about, I think, 9 through 16 before we get straight into top 8, because I do think there are some stories that are really cool here that I want to give a brief shout out to. Obviously, we already talked a lot about Reiner. Mikasa 4 is still showing up. And it's just kind of
Yeah,
what Mikasa 4 was doing, except for replacing some of the rotated cards with Queen of the Monsters. Wait, is it very...
Bro, like I understand that that our brains are rotted by Queen Slop. And this is Queen Slop. This is the sloppiest Queens we ever seen. Do you know what Bug Bite does in this character?
Oh shit.
Think about, I'm gonna Bug Bite a Bug Bite on top of my deck. I'm gonna Thunder Spirit demo my Bug Bite. Then a Team Hero my Thunder Spirit Barrage back, my Thunder Spirit demo back. Bug Bite, Bug Bite, Bug Bite, Bug Bite, Bug Bite, Bug Bite.
I'm taking back everything I'm saying. This is a sick card. What? That's so cool.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Oh, that actually is so cool. Yeah, so never mind. This is an incredibly cool deck. I wish we had the player names on Build UVS. Unfortunately,
This is Dean.
It's Dean.
This is Constantine.
Oh, this is
MGLA, yeah.
that's
Hell
perfect. No, that's awesome.
This is on stream. You can check it out fighting Luna's Peak Universes in, I want to say, like round 4 or 5 or so of the main event. And yeah, it's peak. It's really cool.
I do want to give a quick shout out that's a little past 16. Can you scroll down to 25th, I think?
Oh,
yeah, that's your local, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, wait,
so that is Dan Tickle.
Yeah.
He is on Titan of Terror post rotation and still got top 32 with it. That character's still cool.
Yeah.
Just wanted to give out a quick little shout out for him.
Shout out to the Krista contingent, just continuing to show up with Krista
Yeah.
and continuing to do pretty good.
I'm always
two and
happy
top
to see
16.
someone that there is a true like one trick in their heart. And there are Krista players who I think will never leave Krista until that character rotates.
Krista's fun.
And it's a cool list. Like I like the list a lot, to be clear. She gets Batra arrives. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Order symbol, dog.
Every time I see Batra arrives, I get excited. The one that I want to shout out the most here is number 14. I believe this is Ross's Biolante list. I am obviously a huge Biolante fan, as anyone who knows me knows. We got to be the one to reveal this character. And seeing his list, I immediately saw changes that I want to make to my version, kind of learning from what he's done here. The main thing that I felt insane for not having in my version is second wielder is so friggin' cool in this character, because not only do you flip something face down to give it another damage, which you can do on defense if you block with an attack to give -1 damage, or if you use the deflect 4 on the acid screen, so you can give just a bunch of minus damage. But on offense, you can go into a growing grasp, flip for 3 speed, pop it for EX3, and now you've got this 9 speed heavy damage throw ender. That is so cool. I am immediately putting second wielder in my version because I'm even more in on the deflect build than Ross was. And so deflecting something and flipping it over just sounds so much fun to me. So like super excited to see this deck do this well. This was the one that I was probably paying the most attention to this weekend.
Ross took down teams, and shout out to Spicy Blade.
Yeah.
Like that one.
Yes, I don't know how much I agree with the Icy Blade as a personal choice, but I am so excited that he made this decision and he ran it in a clear. I think what he said when he was talking about it in the Discords afterwards was he felt really good about how this performed the whole weekend. And it's not hard to see why. It's a little bit of additional damage. It's got a pretty solid cancel ability when you need it, and it's a +2 low block. I don't know if I could afford the 3 diff slot for it, but I get why he played it.
And it says check 5, so you put stuff in your graveyard, so you can tutor for it.
Yeah. And it's also clear that like a big difference between his version and my version is he actually wants to block people. That's why he's got the 3 end the cycles and 4 desperate pleas. And the difficulty of your card doesn't matter if you block with it first and then build it down with desperate plea. So yeah, all to say with all of this is that I think this is a really cool one. Final shout out. I cannot believe that we have something in top 16 that was running Expressions of Friendship. I don't think this card has shown up in any list beforehand, but I'm really glad that it showed up here. Yeah.
Like the only time that card is getting it enabled, and Beyonce does that for free. So the card's incredibly good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's the Boomer contingent will be familiar with a card called Chasing After the Power. that was a meta staple for its entirety of legality, and that was like this but ungated, right? Like you could just always do the thing, but if you're Biolante and you can always do the thing, you have a crazy card.
Yeah, the fact that this is any check gets +2, and you don't have to commit this until you decide, oh, I'd like to have +2 more in my check, is incredibly good.
Yes.
You know, we talk about like 2-for-1s, like History's Greatest Monster. This is a 3-for-1. It's spiky, right? In the one check that really matters, it adds up a lot. And being able to stretch out your kill turn, stretch out anything that you need, stretch out your blocks, it's incredibly good.
Yes, this is clearly a Biolante that wants to play the game with the opponent, which is not how I play Biolante, but is a very, very good way to run it. But I think those are kind of the big ones that I wanted to shout out. Other ones, seeing D build Godzilla. Oh, this is on 4-checks. You know what? Never mind. I'm shouting this one out. 4-check Godzilla, Shin Godzilla is sick.
Yeah, I think both of the Tombs brothers were on this, and I'm not sure where the other one wound up. I got to scroll, I guess. I guess 26th place. Yeah, it's probably about 1 loss behind. But yeah, it's not a poorly positioned deck by any means. But I think that, well, I think this was a good deck into the like round 1, round 2, like the early meta game, and then less good into Rodan and Pony that we maybe saw kind of time after that. For me, the narrative, you know, going into Sunday was we had 6-hand size versus 7-hand size, with 5 of these Pony and Rodan decks, but it's a preview of what we're going to be talking about with the top 8 tournament, and then 3 6-hand size. And I can imagine Shin Godzilla not really wanting to play against those 7s, where he'd be thrilled to play against a Jester, to play against Rhiners all day.
Absolutely.
And so a good metagame call, but not a good metagame call for you know the winners metagame, the getting to Sunday crowd. But
it
a good result
feels
certainly, and I think.
A little bit of he, you know, zigged instead of zagged. He kind of planned for a specific set of matchups that when he saw those was really good, but it just wound up those weren't the matchups that were sitting at the very top of the tables, which is something to just say no matter what. I think there's this assumption like good players will top and not good players would top. But there are plenty of times where a really good player, Patrick Toombs is a very good player. David Toombs is a good player. But, you know, these are players that can totally have topped before, but they make the wrong judgment call for what is the thing to take to the event. It says nothing about them as a player, but they made the wrong prediction. And so they end up being just a little bit behind the curve.
Yeah. Or sometimes they're just people who just want to play, you know, the decks they like and not.
True. There are times.
Most good players will show up to a tournament wanting to have a shot, but they're not always trying to have like the best possible shot.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, ask David how many times he has brought a mill deck that is definitely not the strongest thing in the room, but he insists that he is going to run a mill deck and make it top one day. But as we move on to top 8,
you said for like the best decks for me as opposed to the best deck in a vacuum, right?
Yeah.
And you know, if he again, you were saying you'd never play an aggro deck. You know, it's kind of the same preference taken to an extreme to say, hey, I'm going to play a deck that is the opposite of an aggro deck, being the most extreme form.
Absolutely.
But you can just do stuff. And I want to shout out. I got to cram in to shout out to. We got Puma in top 16. We got Puma in 17th place as well. It is the order. But we love Puma. Puma's great.
Yeah, I am happy to see Puma keep showing up somewhere in top tables. Or these high tables. This deck is to me one of the most fun things that came out of Critical Role. And it's one of the few times I'm excited to sit across from Massive Mutant Machine. So I'm always happy when we actually see this one make a presence. But moving on to our top 8, we're going to start kind of go 8th to 1. If someone knows who these players are, if you can let me know as we're kind of talking about them. First one in 8th place, one that I would not have expected. Jester makes it into the top 8 tables on a deck that is 7 attacks and 22 backups.
That deck is very funny.
Yeah, this is the biggest unk in the room, Brett Hellman, one of the true old heads, and yeah, putting up a remarkable performance, a remarkable deck.
Is this deck just playing like hard defense and using harness and stroke? I guess you can pick them up, right? So you can like
Yeah, they
dribble your
fuel themselves. So like if you have Stroke the Big Tree in your discard pile, as long as you have an attack, you pick up all 3 strokes over the course of your attack turn because it's a spell and it generates a momentum on its face.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, you can also do it with Gunflame Feint, but Stroke's like the better card basically.
Yeah, and Jester makes some momentum, once per round. Obviously, Final Leaf makes some momentum. If you have
Right.
extra momentum, you get to leaving the Bebop and turn that into an attack.
Yep.
Every time you spend a
Yeah.
momentum to pick up Stroke, you also get +2 damage on your attack.
With Theo, yeah.
With Theo. Oh man, this is a cool deck.
Yeah, it
again,
is.
another one of these where you aren't necessarily expecting a deck like this to show up. I don't think there's been conversations about the secret Jester deck that's going crazy, and shows just how wide open I think the meta is right now.
Yeah.
A good innovative deck builder can show up with something that you are completely not expecting and do well with it.
Yeah, this is truly peak universes, right? You can play solid fundamentals, you can play normal stuff, or you can play the weirdest 7 attack complete engine pile you've ever heard of.
Yeah, and this is
Yeah.
a long-term project for Brett. He said that in his interview. This is like, version 17 or something of this deck for him. And, he did say, and I imagine this is true, that he got a lot of leverage out of his opponents not really understanding what was going on. Right. And now that, I mean, we'll see how many people are like actually paying attention. But if he were to show up to Dallas with this deck, I imagine he'd get, a little more like caution around holding low blocks and things like that, and being
Right.
ready for tension zone changes and whatnot.
Yeah, I can
I will tell
imagine
you
if this
this deck
deck's
is not gonna
terrorizing your
make me-
locals, he doesn't like Filled with Doubt.
Yeah.
True.
I will tell you this deck is not going to make me actually put low blocks in my deck. So you know what? If he plays against me, I might get punished for it. Low blocks don't exist.
The one thing
But-
you and Kevin can agree on.
Yeah.
Listen, I have not said low attacks are not real and cannot hurt me while looking at Harness on Death in my life.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Although,
Look, I wrote enough
in this
DR.
deck, if I
Harness
put-
of Death ain't going to do damage to me. It's fine.
yeah, I do a Hanji enhance, and I just make sure make sure to control mode normalcy and Raguchi. Yeah, I think Raguchi.
Yeah, exactly. You just hope he doesn't have Hitch on board.
Yeah, Hitch could fight back, but like Theo, we only spend 1 momentum, right? So like,
Yeah,
just gotta put -6 on it. We're safe.
Oh man. But yeah, so cool to see a deck like that. Then on 7, you get this kind of aggressive leaning Air Rodon deck, running Queen, Pale Rider. A lot of people are going to call this a Queen slop deck. I think there is some really interesting stuff going on here. I think I always love when Invisible Infiltration shows up. This is one of those cards that I think has actually gained a lot more respect in formats as it's gone on. I'm seeing more and more people really consider this like a legitimate choice to put in their deck, which I think it always should have been. But
Yeah, this is Jacob from No Shake, by the way, who I believe lost a win in against Calvin in Chicago on the same deck, basically. And I forget precisely, was I watching the stream match or did I forget exactly what it was, but I realized I was wandering around and I realized this deck is doing all of the stuff that I've been trying to cram into my Pumat deck. And so this is one of the things that I got really excited about to kind of bring home and to get in the lab with. Just to play, Science with Invisible Infiltration, Queen of the Monsters, and an actual character with defense on my face as opposed to Pumat, where I'm often just like tanking stuff. But this deck's sweet.
Yeah, I think the Google Trends for Queen Slop has spiked up a lot over this past week. That's sort of just become a term in the UVS zeitgeist very quickly. And I guess to try to like put a description on it, we're basically talking about like it's gonna have Queen. It's probably, if it's Air Earth, it's gonna have Hunter's Ally, and if it can, it's gonna have Sensei's Ho, and it's probably gonna have Team Hero in there somewhere. And that sort of like group of cards is something you just see put into like any number of different characters or decks with whatever Hunter's Ally targets people want besides Team Hero itself.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like good symbol decks with Queen aren't like the same Queen slop that you'll see the Air and Earth symbol decks run. but they'll probably still call it Queen Slop too, just because it has Queen in it.
Yeah, I do kind of worry the term Queen Slop is going to get overused as it goes on. Like, if it's not already being overused, I think there are cool and interesting ways to use Queen that aren't just these turn 2 aggro, do a bunch of damage.
I don't think it's expressly limited to describing turn 2 aggro decks. I think it's just describing the sort of package of cards. Right.
Yeah.
The same way. The same way people talked about, like, it's the punch package, right? Back in the early MHA days. Like, oh yeah, it is on the hardened punch package, right? And it's just all the Kirishima attacks. And it's sort of like that.
Back in the day, it would have been hard slop, yeah.
Yeah. It would have been hard slop.
We had the slop technology.
Yeah.
I mean, at a certain level, like, I'm trying to remember, I feel like this has been a podcast topic at some point, but that broadly, like, being indifferent to what your opponent is doing is a powerful strategy. Yeah. And like, that's what it means to be slop, right? It's your opponent is just throwing stuff at you. They're playing at you rather than playing with you so much. And Queen of Monsters just trends in that direction a lot of times. At the same time, like, it is in the long games, when you're like tutoring for botcher arrives or tutoring for some combo piece. I don't choose combo pieces anymore. It's just botcher arrives, and that's what makes it slop to me. Actually, that's what it is. Really, is that it's botcher arrives turns all your cards into slop, and this deck is just like, here's my loot box, here's my science bros. We're not trying to conduct a symphony. We're just trying to have more oatmeal in the bowl than you. And that's what makes it
I think that is for sure like a topic that we've touched on a little bit, and we'll probably circle back on at some point as a podcast, is this idea of like how decks have shifted a little bit as design has shifted, and a lot more towards this, like, I have a clear game plan. I'm trying to kill you early with and not really care about what my foundations do. Or like, I am trying to sit here for 100 turns with like a Tyner deck or a bio deck. In both ways, kind of being very ignorant to what my opponent might be trying to do, because I'm just trying to make sure my gimmick stays alive. Which I do think is a change, and is, again, like a deep topic we could go into from, say, the Overhaul days. Or at least decks like Overhaul that really felt like they were taking advantage of a bunch of different interactions and trying to play on multiple stages of the game in a little bit of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, between like Hunter's Ally and Team Hero and Queen, it's a lot more viable to say, I'm going to try to assemble this set of foundations.
Right.
Or, 3 copies of Batra Arrives or 3 copies of Imprisoned. Right, or whatever powerful foundation you're trying to just get a big stack of in your stage. Yep. And so that's why you get to see more decks that are actively trying to do that, because it's a lot more feasible.
Yeah. I would totally be fine with calling my old Hanji deck DR Slop or Tyner D-Build Slop, because it definitely felt like I was just trying to make sure that happened. It didn't care about anything else, and just stacking as much of that as possible. But moving on from Rodan onto some of the other decks, we also had one in number 6. Now this one is
with 2 Void Rodans.
Yeah, we had 3 very distinct Rodans, honestly.
Yeah, which is cool. Like, I know there was a lot of concern when Attuned was first announced and AOT was all attuned, that characters were going to coagulate into these only one play style per character instead of the historical 3 symbols create 3 very different decks. I think the happy medium of where UVS design has landed, where like a lot of URs and SRs are not attuned that are big pieces, but then there's a lot of attuned support, has really allowed both making sure symbols have, if you have a symbol, you get to play that symbol's gimmick no matter what, but also get to have these power pieces that allow different versions to be viewed differently. Here, we get stuff like King Ghidorah Unleashed, which allows us to keep playing attacks that are by putting them into the remove from game pile, which we get to do with incubating consistently, or block with it, which we could do with incubating. Megalomania gets to seal our opponent when we don't like what they're doing, especially against something like, say, a Reiner, for instance, if they don't have 2 momentum. That feels like very important to seal their character. I think that this is a very, still kind of in the vein of the control Rodan decks of old, but still a very, very cool approach to it, and one that is different enough as the deck has evolved through rotation and new set releases.
You know, like, and I think that one thing we get, well, I think there's been a lot of changes to design, right? We're not in the Gatun world. It's not just limited to like the Prisons of Gatun, but I think like cards like Weapon at the Ready were not the kind of things we saw back in the day, right? That's a design space that really never got explored. And this deck gets in Rodon gets to leverage that both as, you know, the cost becomes a benefit as well as top decking his 1x Bedazzled Helm Blast, or his Wingnut Sabotage, or his Final Animus shots. But this is this is a different, like, and there's an element of kind of speciation we just see with, you know, cards like Gas Repellent. It's an attuned card, but it has real costs. It has weird incentives for your deck building.
We're back now. Okay.
Kind of, yeah.
We should be able to finish this up now.
Yeah, so we were glazing Barlow's Stick Assets Rodan deck, and we can probably move on.
Yeah, I think the one thing I want to say about Rodan is that I think the big change that's happened is that without Rejuvenating Smash, they're not drawing a million cards anymore. They're getting like a little bit extra from King Ghidorah Unleashed when they need it, right? And that, like, they have some card draw, but they're not necessarily buckling in and trying to like block 7 times, right? There's like a little bit more of an understanding that like they are going to need to proactively end the game at some point, you know, before the opponent gets to craft a 6 attack hand and slam in on them.
Yeah, which also, you know, respects the peaks of like the Reiners of the world, the Annies of the world, who can throw some stuff together, throw some very powerful things together on relatively short notice.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and make sure we move on to keep good on time. I'm going to group the two ponies together because my understanding is these are very similar decks between the two of them. There are some differences for sure, but yeah, Pony has kind of been the talk of the town. We knew she was going to be a thing before the regional. It definitely turned out she was a very big thing due to the regional, getting both 5th and 2nd place and showing up just all the time at high tables. And this has been the one that kind of got the reputation of Queen Slop. It's trying to do what Old Pony was doing with only having her character once per turn. We're using Queen and Lethal to just get additional clears. We're using Hunter's Ally to get us the damage to actually kill people. I don't feel like there's a ton we can say about this because it is the Pony deck, a facsimile of the Pony decks we have seen historically. But it is showing that, like, despite the errata, this character's still very, very good.
Yeah, filter cards like crazy. And, like, yeah, you have to, like, pass checks a little bit more. But, just, you know, on exchange, you get to spend those tokens on the plus and minus speed that you didn't get to spend them on previously, really. Too often, anyway.
And
It's just a very different
an
animal.
Point here. Mm-hmm. By not having to use the face as much to card pool clear and getting to rely on Queen for that card pool clear, that gives you way more access to the speed and zone manipulation aspects of Pony, which arguably they should have been using more to begin with anyways. But now that they're kind of pushed in that direction, it's going to allow them to make their stuff harder to block. It's going to make their zone changes more consistent. I know there was a funny one, and I think it was top 4 of Calvin versus George, had mid Pony crazy, between Calvin and George, where Calvin uses a Stroke the Big Tree to rezone it to a mid, so it is a throw that will kill, and then Pony just swaps it back to a low and blocks anyways. So it is kind of fun to see this character still doing a lot of stuff, still being very good. Yeah,
and previously, like, she could have used them more previously, but you're doing this whole, like, math in your head of, like, what if I need... Because you never... When you're trying to line up to play, like, 9 attacks by clearing your card pool repeatedly, you need to start with a certain number of counters to do that, because you're only going to get 2 per attack. And so, like... There's this whole risk reward thing that goes into deciding whether to use your counters for other things in Old Pony. And now it's like, Yeah, I'll have 3 by my second move. Everything else can go to speed. So I just like spend them on just as needed. It's fine.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I miss I miss Peak University Pony where we had to like actually like
Pre-fail streak
intentionally put
pony.
in
Yeah.
like put in like Horndash Hammer and Armor of the Wolf and like cards that actually deal real damage, and not just get Team Hero, Queen of the Monsters, Genghis Frog for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe these people aren't playing Pony's best card, Horndash Hammer. I mean, it has her face on it.
I mean, if you want to win the tournament, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes
All right.
sometimes you get signals in life, and it's like a bad signal lighting up the sky, telling you what you should do, and you have to listen to those signals.
I know second place was George Rangel. Who was fifth place?
Also, it's Disaster Dan in chat.
Yeah.
Getting ads.
Oh,
Thanks for the
Disaster
views.
Dan. Perfect. Yeah. And then we get into top 4. And we have Angerus, played by the one, the only, self-proclaimed greatest of all time in universes, Calvin DeHaan.
Justin, have you heard the team story about Calvin?
God, no.
So,
is this when he said he's a solo agent on Facebook looking for...
This happened
downstream of that.
Yes,
yeah,
on
Friday morning, I'm eating. I ate breakfast and I was sitting over with like Calidus and the judge crew, about to go over to the event hall and start getting set up, and Calvin walks by and says, "Oh, hey, Broberg, I need to talk to you." And I say, "Great," and then he's going to the bathroom or whatever, comes back and sits down and says, "Kevin, you're like one of the greatest players of all time. You should join my team." Because he'd gotten Jet on board, and he was looking for a third. And there were a bunch of people, a bunch of pairs looking for thirds all weekend. And he gives me the hard pitch. He says, "Listen, like you're judging, but you can bail on judging. Nothing important is happening today. You can just you see with me instead." And I said, "I don't have a deck." He says, "You can play Nejire." And then someone else butts in and says, "No, Kevin's committed to like he can't just bail on judging. He has to judge." And he says, "Well, okay, if you change your mind, come hook me up," and then he leaves.
I can say without question that playing Nejire 2 is worse than judging. Like, I cannot imagine being stuck on that deck.
No, but
you get to like tutor your favorite 4 difficulty range deck all the time. It's cool.
It's almost as good as having 4 checks, but also. Like, I think you're underselling the value of teaming with the main character, right? The victory was assured. But I sacrificed because I don't want to win the tournament. I want the glory to go to the players, the power to go to the people. I don't want to take it. I don't want to take that from them, right? And so that's why I said no. We would have won for sure, 100%. With Jet as our third, are you kidding me?
See, the difference between Calvin and Broberg is how aware they are that they are being over the top. But Broberg's like, how do I commit to the bid harder?
I think Calvin knows who he is.
I hope Calvin knows who he is. I hope that it is all a bit that never turns off. Because I've never seen him wink towards the camera in my life. But
I don't think Love or Ryan have either.
Yeah, that's what I have heard. I did want to say one thing because I want to make sure it gets shouted out. Apparently, Dan not only got 5th place, but also was Swiss champ on Pony. And I think that is Dan's first Swiss champ, which just shows you how good Dan is when he is unshackled from a C tier character that he needs the pet deck. He is a crazy player.
I mean, I said this last week, and it wasn't about like playing Uwabami at regionals, but I've played Chronostasis at regional, right? Playing the like decks that don't just like have it all on a silver platter on the character's face, and like trying to work on those and figure out how to succeed with those can help your gameplay more broadly. Absolutely. Right, when you are playing the stuff that is up to snuff.
Yeah, like playing the game on easy mode can stifle your development, right? If you never have to calculate, do you have enough damage because you build Genghis Frog every time, can encourage some lead habits, right? and having to scratch in the dirt and play offense and defense and your C tier deck and grind out these games, that can go a long way to your development. That can give you a lot of strengths to play. That can give you insight into people's habits. That can just develop in a lot of ways. And then, and yeah, I don't want to say like, and then you play a real deck and scratch, but there's all kinds of ways to have a real deck. I hate this idea of like, yeah, there's fake decks and there's real decks, but
well,
there are yeah.
There's an example that my old debate coach used to give when we were practicing for tournaments, because she used to have a tendency to put more restrictions on us. Like, we'd have 25 minutes to prep instead of 30 minutes, or she would make sure we got one of the hardest extem topics we could instead of us trying to pick the easiest of the three. And the example she always give was she was a drummer on the side, and she would drum when she was practicing with weights on, because it was harder to move your arms when you're drumming with weights on. And so that way, when you take the weights off and drum for real at a concert, you're drumming so much faster. If you learn to have the fundamental skills when you're dealing with worse situations, then you keep those skills and are better off when you are dealing with favorable situations, like playing in like actually top tier deck or something like that. And I'll say that as someone who's had the reverse of that, where often I feel like my skills have atrophied when I've done nothing but play like a top tier DR deck, and I try to play a B tier deck and I have to go, oh crap, I need to block now. I forgot how to actually do that well. I haven't had to think about that in a while.
Yeah, and this is a little bit of a tangent from what you're saying, but this is why when you're playing at locals and when you're playing, especially if you're like playing testing, that you should consider having takebacks. You should consider having you should never like take advantage of someone's lack of knowledge of the rules, and you should try to make those testing games as hard as you can, right? You should, if you're a stronger player, be player 2. Try to give your opponent the advantages, so that you do get put into situations where you're a little bit behind. You have to find the way to get back, and you have to fully engage with the game. You have to fully challenge yourself, and that way you can actually, then you'll take the weights off in actual competition, and you'll be more prepared for it.
Absolutely. But yeah, going back to the Angerous decks, we've kind of changed a little bit. This is kind of what you would expect from what we saw of the Angerous decks that were being talked about in Chicago. Very similar, honestly, to a lot of the Titan of Terror decks, which makes sense because these are very similar shaped characters. I do like the use of Acidic Sludge as a 4-diff here, to say that, like, hey, this card is valuable enough, especially with its momentum effect, that we will trade off the +1/+2 of our character to use this card. That's something I think if you are building a X keyword or X difficulty oriented character, you should always be looking to if your character has the flexibility to go a little bit off of that for better value overall. And then
really
we're running a little bit low on time. I'm going to kind of.
I just want to butt in and say I like, this is a large, in many ways, a tot deck, but we do have this kind of a bunch of chaos tune. You have Finally Free, we have Inspiring Song. We got Gunflame Feint. Yeah, I really like the creativity of the 6 attacks that aren't 4 diffs or aren't 5 diffs to get the 1/2, but then they still add up power tokens, so they're good pokes. And there's a lot of it's a very different kind of flavor of gameplay from Titan of Terror. I think Titan of Terror is very indifferent to what's going on. Angrius really wants to hit, and so really wants to play a lot of footsie to try to land hits as often as possible and to tank hits and then threaten to backswing you in a lot of ways.
And I think we have Jeffrey Kahn won an LC around us with an Angrius deck, and he's been on Angrius the whole time, and so there's a lot of things I like about his list, and just comparing the two, you can see that Calvin's definitely paying a lot to have Acidic Sludge in this deck, right? He's playing a couple extra 4-diff tension moves to make sure his momentum. He's playing Finally Free instead of History's Greatest Monster, so instead of being able to pass checks better, that he's using this to generate momentum, which can help him pass checks better if he uses it on Sludge and has that kind of string going on and stacks a couple 6s. And so there's some trade-offs like that are happening here, but obviously Acidic Sludge is a very good card and it can be worth those trade-offs. And notably, no Angrius Ball, which is kind of fine. That card it sounds good when you say 4 difficulty, 5 low, 7 draw card, but that's not that crazy ultimately at the end of the day. And it only draws a card on hit even. So like you don't really need Angriest Ball too much. I guess the other thing that we don't see here that I remember from Jeff's list is there's no Earthbreaker. That's probably what's kind of getting traded off for Acidic Sludge here, and obviously those are just two differently shaped cards that have different advantages.
Yeah. Going into the final three, who is Rodan is Drew, right?
Yeah.
Yep. In
Yeah,
second place, we have Drew on
Rodan.
a very control, big deck, old school Rodan deck, taking advantage of how powerful Team Hero is to always get in these powerful defensive cards. Batra arrives, the whole works. This is a very much the Rodan deck that you would expect to show up. Very defensive, very control-y, with the ability to do some killer backswings with Ice Sword Execution and Trigrab and Animus Shot, the whole works.
Yeah. I mean, I think most notably is the other Void Rodan was main deck Strategic Maneuver in an Assets package, and this Rodan is main deck 4 Genkai's, 3 Power of the Monsters.
Yeah,
that was
that's probably the biggest difference. Like there's some differences in the foundations and the attacks a little bit, but that's sort of the main thing is what they're doing with their blue cards.
And that is what I wanted to shout out was specifically Power of the Monsters. This is a card that it is very shaped like I'm blanking on its name. The
Hero's Upbringing.
The Todoroki card.
Yeah,
Hero's Upbringing.
Hero's Upbringing. This very Hero's Upbringing shaped. It is pretty much the replacement for that card. And Hero's Upbringing has been one of those cards that consistently shows up in sideboards and stuff, but there's a lot of question if it's ever good enough to bring in. It really depends on the meta and things like that. It is very cool to see Power of the Monsters starting to see some of that similar representation of, hey, this is one that can be relevant to a lot of decks, so we do want to go ahead and make sure we give it some time in the sun.
I think Hero's Upbringing sucks, but plus 2 High Block Breaker 1 is nice. And I feel like that's almost the best this card.
Imagine Reiner slapping with one of these to get his power token.
That's really
okay.
funny.
If there is a world where Reiner's siding into this, like against decks that matters because it gets the power token, is not an incorrect choice. Although you probably want a more George variety where you have a lot more foundation. So
you're just not playing backups.
Killer.
Yeah, and I think I want to contest a little bit. Like this deck has 58 foundations. Barlow's deck had like 45.
Yeah, one of these is like a 99
so
card deck, and the other is 70 something.
It's like
that is true.
30. It's 1/4 or 1/3 again as many as Barlow's deck did. Like this has got Nominagons, it's got a lot of cards that do not fit in the other one, and this deck is kind of playing just on. I guess you'd say, oh, it's playing foundations out instead of assets out. But it is, I think. Yeah, maybe Rodan's. I don't know. Maybe I'm overhyping how different Rodan decks end up playing, but
yeah, we're playing a ton of 3 diffs too, right? Because we're also playing 4 Batras.
Yeah, 4 Batras, 4 Science Bros, 3 Nominagons,
and 4 Supersonic. Yeah,
that's fine. We're just
we can get away with it. It's just we're building a ton of them.
Absolutely. And then since we're
also
running a little
16 cards in a 100 card deck is like 10 in a 6.
Sure.
Yeah, let's
I want to make sure we give some attention to the winner of the whole event. It is Mitchell Cimino, played by Justin Martin.
We were talking about people who like main characters and like one-trick characters.
Yes.
I don't mean any will by this, but this is the definition of a one-trick player playing his favorite character. Like, I'm not saying Justin Martin is a bad player by any means, but he has been
very obviously he just won.
Yeah, exactly. He has been playing Mitch since like the character dropped.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's played anything else at an event, but I do know he was playing this like in February, March, or whenever Denver was last year.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And he had a rematch against Andrew Pard again. I believe Andrew was on Rodan for that event too. So it was a Justin on Mitchell versus Andrew on Rodan rematch in the top 4.
Yeah. If anyone knows how to play this character, I'm going to say it's Justin Martin.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this character has gotten a lot of things new to its credit, of course. Monster versus Machine is this card that's just been showing up everywhere because a 3 diff that taps a big thing on the opponent is really, really good. And it's a breaker 2 block, and it's got powerful, and it gets you a power token when it pokes your opponent. It just has a lot going for it. especially in this type of deck. Mechanical Monster is obviously a pretty sick kill card if you are a deck like this that is both generating a lot of momentum and tapping a lot of the opponent's stuff. It almost feels like this card was made for Mitchell Cimino. Like, it feels like it's doing everything that character would want to do. And then the Protector of Life, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla combo takes this already fairly tanky deck and just gives it that much more ability to block well and make sure that stuff isn't getting through, doing any damage to him. This is a deck that just all around screams, I am balancing some strong offensive cards, but also some really incredible defense.
Yeah, to me,
it's
the
very funny because I
defining
do hear a lot
card-
of people saying now.
Yeah, but the defining card of this deck to me is Crisis of Confidence.
Yeah.
It's got Imprisoned, it's got 4x Team Hero, it's got these attacks. These are cards that normal decks play. Crisis of Confidence, this is up there with like Aaron's Trial as far as order attuned cards from AOT 1 that no one has ever read before. And
Yes.
it is a Mitchell Cimino classic because it only it costs momentum and it's hard to get for most characters. But Mitchell gets to review step and get this turned on. And then, like, fundamentally, this is like the most controlling deck I have seen in Universes in a long time. This is more ways to deny your opponents specific pieces that they care about than most decks. And this is very much a deadlock pin deck too. It says if you build to 11, you will get buried. You will get immediately killed under multiple undercover infiltrations. You will get completely tapped down and backswung. And if you go to 10, I will tap down 10 of your resources every turn if I need to.
Yes.
Yeah, this is very similar to the Tyner deck, except that like at least you get to have 10 foundations where half of them are gone, instead of having like 5 foundations where all of them are gone. But it's a very similar idea. We're gonna completely choke out their ability to do things.
Absolutely. I know when I was talking to people about what to play in Dallas, I had people going, you should take a look at this Mitchell Cimino deck. It looks like the kind of deck that you like to play, which says a lot about how much it is going to control what the opponent is allowed and permitted to do on a given turn.
This is putting a little more effort in to win the game than I'm used to some of your decks having. But
yeah, this deck also
a lot more than most of my decks have.
Yeah, this deck also blocks moves.
Yeah, and that's scary to me. I don't want to block moves. Although, in fairness, it does get to block moves with Protector of Life, and I'm cool with that because I don't have to think about block zones. I just drop that card and I block a thing.
It's so far from peak Universes, dude. At least it's not Queen Slop.
Oh, man. But yeah, overall, I think this is a really cool card or deck to see. And I think this really should be imperative amongst, if nothing else you take away from this regional, you look at Justin Martin winning with this and you should say, I cannot predict what is going to win a regional. I have heard some people say, congrats, since we didn't hit Titan of Terror is going to win the regional. And then Reiner did. And they're like, okay, no, but that's because Reiner was actually nuts as well. And so actually Reiner's going to win.
Yeah, top 8 is going to be 6 Reiners, guys. Like,
yeah, top 8 is going to be 6
what
Reiners.
was GVS Games doing?
And then I heard people go, well, actually, right before Vegas, we figured out the more broken deck, which is Pony. Pony's now definitely going to win Vegas. And then none of those were true. It was Mitchell Cimino, which was a deck that existed, did show up at LCs, but I very rarely heard in the conversation of decks that were even going to top Vegas.
Half the ones in LCs were a good symbol build that was, for lack of a better word, doing a lot of Queen Slop shaped stuff, right?
Yeah,
where we're just gonna. But that was a Queen toolbox. That was we're playing 20 different 1x foundations, and we're just going to use Queen and Canister and Tutor for what we want.
Absolutely. And all of this is to say as a whole that, like, if there's anything as a player you should be doing if you're trying to get to the top of the game, it is, yes, know the best decks. Know if you should be playing one of the best decks in the room. There are times where there is a deck that already exists that fits your play style, but also be confident in the decks that you think are good enough. Practice them, really see if they are, because this isn't a huge game like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh, where people have figured out the top deck with pretty much 100% confidence, and you're either playing meta or you're playing to beat that meta card. We are an open enough field that proper deck innovation, proper play can get you to win with your favorite pet deck, as long as it is good enough to sit at the big kids table.
Yeah. There's a million ways to build a good deck in universes, and you can find the way that is your way, and you can compete with that, even if it's not, the stock deck, even if it's not the same thing that everyone else is playing. It is, and not you won't win every week, but there's only one person who can win the tournament every week. And so far this season, it's been looking pretty healthy. It's been looking like it's different decks every week, even at different LCs. And yeah, it's the metagame's in a fascinating place these days. It's very unpredictable.
And I will say now I have to do well at Dallas for sure, because I can't be known as the second most important Justin in universes. That now that Justin Martin has won a regional, I have to try to win one too. I already get called the second Birch of universes.
No, that's just a fact.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry that he doesn't play anymore. He played me one time, stole my name, and has now said he will never play me again.
And then he won a regional after that.
Yeah.
Anyways.
A regional that Justin didn't go to.
No, I went to
Did
Canada.
you? No, I'm talking about
Yes.
he that's not the one he won. He won Atlanta.
Oh, Justin Martin? No, I think Justin Martin went to Canada.
No, we're talking about
Birch.
We're talking about Phil.
Yeah, you're 10 seconds behind, so it's hard to.
Yeah.
Incredible. Well,
yeah.
Okay. Speaking of, now that we've gone, hopefully, I will figure out what tech issues went wrong and try to resolve them for next week. Because man, internet was bad today. It might just be sometimes internet just sucks, so we'll see. But
it'll be the second week in a row
as we go ahead and wrap things up, because we are now an hour and 36 minutes. Does anyone have anything they would like to promote?
Shout out to builduvs.com/list, where you can look at all the deck lists from LCs and UGN broadly, since the regionals in both seasons of LCs, and soon enough season 3.
Yeah, I like that you have the deck names in there as like a little subtitle. I think that's a cool feature. So some people put thought into their deck names, and so we get to see the deck name Thunderbringer, right?
Yeah, a little bit of personality.
Yeah. I have a youtube.com/Cetonis, CETONIS. I post like a video per month ish. I know what next video is going to be. I have to decide if I'm going to pull the trigger on putting it together or not, but it'll be it. I need to do another top prospects. Now that we have build UVS/lists, I can probably work off of that while Metaversus is still in its cocoon. But yeah, that'll come up sooner or later.
Will?
And as always, you can find this one might be a little weird because it got chopped halfway through. But you can always find the most recent episode on the following Monday on youtube.com/4checkscast.
Yes, you get to figure out how to squish VODs together now.
Joke's on you. I'm just going to post until it breaks.
I'm hoping to have something to actually promote next week. We'll see. I know I say that every week. I've been talking to someone about something, so I will have something next week. I will know what I am doing next week.
It's a powerful deadline.
With that all in mind, that's true. If I don't set myself a deadline, I'm never going to do it. Is there anybody we can go ahead and go raid with our remaining 7 viewers?
Not that I see. At least no one UVS related.
Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. All right. We will see y'all later then. Take care.